Welcome back to the third and final segment of the player power rankings for Collingwood going into season 2025. We previously did the defensive rankings, the midfield rankings, and now we're going to do the forward rankings along with the ruckman. And what we'll do throughout the season is at the end of each month, we will do power rankings for each of these thirds, positional thirds being defense, midfield, forward, along with the ruckman. So without further ado, let's get into our first few players that we're going to rank in the forward line and the rucks. We have number 13, of course, AJ being delisted, looking to be re-rookied and committed to that. So I'm intrigued. I feel like this is going to benefit Ash Johnson in a way, in the sense that he's coming in with a completely different realm of pressure relative to last offseason. We were all hyping him up. He was performing really well in the offseason. I think the pressure overwhelmed him, along with the fact that Collingwood as a whole did not perform well, and subsequently the forwards probably took the biggest effect or felt the largest effect because of the lack of synergy and ball movement. And AJ, unfortunately, with that tied along with his lack of pressure early in games, is probably what killed him in the end and saw him in the VFL side for the rest of the year and by then also being delisted. So I think it will benefit him. There's no pressure. Go out, do your thing. You're on your last legs. So it's conflicting. There's no pressure, but there's a lot of pressure. There's no pressure in the sense that you're coming from a long way back. No one's going to care about how you're performing because you're not a part of the senior side, but that can quickly change. And the other side where there is pressure is the fact that, okay, well, if you don't perform well, this is probably going to be the end of your AFL career. So I'm really intrigued with this one. I'm going to keep a close eye on AJ. Number 12, Iluru Smith, a lot of development still to go as a ruck forward. Showed some really good signs at VFL level. So I'm just looking for another full year in the VFL with Iluru and go from there. And I think we have a typo with Oscar Steen with the double E at the end. Didn't see much of him or any of him really in 2024 at VFL level due to a long-term injury. I think it was his foot. So for me, it'll be a bit more of a learning curve with Oscar Steen coming into this season and see what he's about. But just given he's already performed quite well at VFL level, I'd say maybe he's one ahead of Iluru Smith right now. Moving into our next 5, we have Tim Membry at number 10. Now, I know this is going to be an interesting one because I still have him in the starting team, but I'll try to justify why we have players ahead of him there. And I'm sure this will generate some conversation in the comment section after, so bring it on. Yeah, came for what? Peanuts, would be on a relatively small contract, maybe 250, 300, I would guess, max. And no picks were given up. There was no compensation for St Kilda. Kicked 30 odd goals for them behind Max King and the like. So coming into this side, I think he's going to be really important for depth, for wisdom for our younger forwards, and to be that third key tall who we've lacked in that realm for such a long time. We tried AJ, we tried Reef, we tried Kruger. Membry's just going to be that buck stop. So yeah, that's pretty much what it is, a stopgap, whatever you want to call it. Moving on to Mason Cox. I just see the reason why I have Mason Cox over Membry right now is just I saw how Collingwood performed without Mason Cox in 2024. And just for context, before he was out, I said this Kruger could be retiring Cox. And then we saw Cox out, and we saw Kruger in, and I realised, well, Cox just offers too much in a ruck, and his aerial presence is just too much. Whether he marks it or not, goes a long way. And he's improved his ground ball pressure over the years, especially since Craig McRae's come in. He's definitely taken more pride in that, not just giving up once the ball hits the deck. So that's why I think I have Mason Cox still ahead of Membry in the rankings. And I think he's still got a good year in him before he potentially retires. I've also got Will Hoskin-Elliott number 8, just because of his versatility. So this probably extends beyond the forward/ruck rankings for Hoskin-Elliott. He's the exception to the rule because he can play anywhere, which is why I have him at number 8. He might not necessarily play ahead of Mason Cox or Membry in the forward line, but just the pure fact that he can play anywhere at any time, I'm giving him leeway and rite of passage here to be number 8. Number 7, I've got Lockie Schultz, who could also be much higher, especially going into next year. He still kicked his 20-odd goals this year, kicked the second most for the Pies behind Bobby Hill. So there are a lot of good things to take away from Schultz's season. It's just a matter of, okay, now let's take it up another level. Let's kick some goals. Let's keep applying pressure and keep working on your craft. He's ambitious. We've seen him. He likes to try to take a lot of overhead marks, similar to Jamie Elliott. I'd like to see him clunk a few more of those and just display a little bit more composure, like he exuded in that Brisbane game where he kicked that clutch goal. Number 6, Bo McCreary. I mean, just similar to Mason Cox, when Bo was out, I realised how important he was to the structure of the team, his pressure around the stoppages. He's just a raging bull. So that's why I've got him at number 6. And could he play midfield at some point? I don't know. I feel like he's probably a fair way away from that conversation for now. We already sort of semi-tried that last year, but I think other players are ahead of him in that category at the moment. Going to our final 5. Jamie Elliott, still got him at number 5. Could be higher. Probably just didn't finish the season as well as I would have liked the last season. Must be noted that he did come back from a significant foot injury, which at some points it was rumoured that he could potentially retire effective immediately. So for him to bounce back and finish off the year is a big tick. And yeah, I still got him as our best marking small forward and most clutch forward. So deserves a spot in our side until seen otherwise. My check number 4, just the crash and bash, plays above his size, kicks goals when needed. Kicked a couple goals in 2018 grand final, kicked a couple goals in 2024. He's just been there when we've needed him and puts his body where other players won't. Simple as that. Number 4, Bobby Hill is the X factor. And I think if he can just simplify his game in 2025, I think he can get even better. And I see an All-Australian in him at some point. I really do. It could be next year. I really feel it. Number 2, McStay. I just think McStay, at his height, with his presence, with what he was able to do in that 2023 final series, particularly against GWS when you needed those type of players to show up, he did that. I just think he's so important to the structure of the side, and I think he could definitely walk out in 2025 and kick 40 to 50 goals as the main man. But number 1, no other than DC, Book, Darcy Cameron, whatever you refer to him as, he's the man. He's the man, and if he can continue to slide forward like he did against Melbourne and kick goals, being in that extended... Was he in the extended squad for the All-Australian side? I think he was. But I think he can go one further very soon and become that primary All-Australian ruckman. And he just got better and better every game. His confidence in aerial contests got better and better. We'll work with what he can do in the ruck. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's okay. Sometimes he's beaten, that's fine. But it's what he does around the grounds, which is what makes him such a special ruckman. So, yeah, I mean, that's the forward and ruck rankings. We have 13 players there. Is anyone I've missed? Do you disagree with the order? Do you agree with the order? I'm sure people will have some qualms with maybe McStay being number 2, maybe Schultz being number 7, and Membry being number 10. So I'm interested to see what you guys think in the comment section. But as I mentioned, we'll do this during the season at the end of each month to generate some conversation and see where all the players are at an individual level. But hopefully this, guys, gives you a bit of a taste for what's to come in 2025. Go Pies.